So Charity Murphy 1019. Oh my God. Hi, I love you. I'm obsessed now with sustainable edible yards.
Heck yeah.
This is commentary.
Well, that's right.
Awesome. Okay.
So am I.
It's a good thing to be obsessed with. Okay, next question. What's a good zone 4 tolerant lawn option that wouldn't attract pollinators? My friend's husband is allergic to bees, so most are not safe.
Okay, so that's the same exact kind of convo we were having before. And not to like, you know, what's a phrase that doesn't involve beating a dead horse, because that's the worst phrase in the whole world. But not to say the same thing again. Low growth fescues are my go-to for like a low maintenance, lower water option. They're also shade tolerant. They're not the most xeric option out there, but they don't flower. And if you wanted to prevent any sort of pollinator attracting thing on that grass, you just need to make sure you mow it like once a month. And that would prevent any seed pods or anything like that from coming up.
Great. Okay, Cheryl's on TikTok. Any edible ground cover recommendations for the Houston area?
Strawberries.
Great.
Always. It's for edible. I mean, so that's not going to be the one you walk on because you don't want to crush the berries, but that's basically all edible ground covers. There are very few creeping times that are actually truly edible. Most of them are not bad to eat, but they're just not as delicious as like an actual thyme. So in that vein, what I would say is if you get stepping stones that are large format enough, you can just plant actual thyme and it's going to grow up that like, 6 to 10 inches and be quite like high and lush in there. But, will actually be edible instead of creeping thyme, which is more just to like look and smell nice.
She just commented that she is allergic to strawberries, so she probably.
Oh,
that's a tough one.
That's a bummer. Well, if she's there, what kind of things does she want to eat? Because other than herbs, strawberries are one of the only like truly edible ground covers.
Gotcha. Okay, you mentioned microbial activity. How can you improve microbial activity?
Hell yeah, that's such a great question. Organic matter, because we need to give those little bebes something to eat. So wood chips, compost, leaf mulch, any sort of biomass from your garden, you get that in there. And then the other thing that you can do is actually inoculate your fungi the fungi is the thing. You can inoculate your organic matter. Let's say wood chips in this case. You get some wood chips because you pruned some trees and you ran that through a little electric mulcher. Fabulous. Then you buy this stuff that's like, it looks like little Dippin' Dots basically. Those are mycorrhizal fungi. Mycorrhizal fungi need symbiotic relationship with living plant roots. Okay, so if you don't have roots, you don't have fungi. We want the fungi. So what you're going to do is actually get those wood chips nice and like damp and moist, and then you're going to basically like chicken and breadcrumbs them. You're going to put those Dippin' Dots all over those wood chips and get that in the soil, and then you're going to get stuff planted in that soil. You could sow a cover crop seed. You could just plant your regular garden. You could plant perennials, whatever, but we want living plant roots. So in an annual garden where you things go dormant in the fall and then you wake up again in the spring, you want to make sure you are sowing a cover crop or that you have perennial plants in your garden beds. Because if you do not have living plant roots, you do not have mycorrhizal fungi and you will be starting from scratch in the spring every year. We don't like that. So those are the two options. For cover crop, in Utah, it's especially difficult to sow a cover crop because our fall is like 2 weeks long. It goes from being 100 degrees to like freezing. So I actually plant a low growing cover crop as a living mulch halfway through the summer. So this can be like a clover even. You can plant that in your annual garden beds like a mulch that will just fill in around the bottom. And then when you're ready to like chop those dormant tomatoes after they've all died off from the first frost, you just have your cover crop already thriving.
All right. Angie on TikTok wanted to know if she could plant an apple tree next to a ponderosa pine, or will the pine kill it?
I don't think it would kill it. Pine has a higher pH. That's the only problem. I love ponderosa pine. If the pine is casting way too much shade, that would be a problem. Apples require full sun. That's the only issue. Making sure that you have enough space. So if you don't have 30 plus feet of clearance, you need to make sure you're planting a dwarf habit apple tree. But I think if you have enough light and you have enough space, I don't see an issue.
Yeah, I know some people get concerned about them competing for nutrients. So that's why you want to have them far enough apart, right?
Yeah, and you definitely want to make sure, because a standard apple tree is way bigger than people think. So you need to make sure you get a dwarf habit if you're planting it in close proximity to anything, like within, I'd say, 20 feet of anything. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. I have an acre covered in tall grass that I want to turn into a native wildflower field in the Pacific Northwest. Can you give me a step-by-step real quick? I know nothing. Sad face.
So this person already has an acre of grass that we hope is like a native grass, I'm guessing, if it's already really tall grass. So already they are in an excellent spot. I would say just continue to collect wildflower seeds that are native, as well as native grasses, which you can get through, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you can get those through PT lawn seeds. We've talked about them before. And just continue to overseed in the spring and fall to support the growth of the correct things and eventually compete out the growth of anything that maybe isn't supposed to be there. But if you already have an acre of what is essentially a like low prairie, you're in an amazing spot. Just get some wildflower seeds in there. If you are worried about the seeds germinating, you could take like an aerator, or even just like one of those hand aerators that's more just like a little stick, and just create some holes in the landscape in order to allow for some more seed to soil contact. But other than that, just chaos garden, just broadcast.
That's what nature does, right?
Yeah, that's what nature does.
All right. Call Me Johnny is asking the question and then actually wins the prize that doesn't actually get a prize, just the recognition and the notoriety.
Oh.
What is the most invaluable handbook in your collection? I remember last week when we set up, I said, Daryl, I'm waiting for the first question about your favorite handbook.
My books. Oh,
yeah.
Let's look. Oh, okay. Edible Forest Gardens, Volume 1 and 2. Look at the size of this thing. Okay. So if you want to learn about permaculture, food forests, perennial edible landscapes, these are the ones. Now, I will say there is a bit of a Pacific Northwest climate bias in these books. So you do have to apply, in my case, like a Utah lens, but they are gorgeous, beautiful. There is also, I'm looking to see if my books are here, or I carry them around so much they might be somewhere else in the house. But Brad Lancaster's Rainwater Harvesting for Drylands and Beyond, Volumes 1 and Volumes 2 will blow your mind if you live in an arid or semi-arid climate. I live in Utah, which is a semi-arid climate. Brad Lancaster lives in Tucson, Arizona, which is dry, very dry. If you live in one of those places and want to learn how to leverage nature instead of working against nature and allow the rain that naturally falls on your landscape to nourish your landscape, you have to read those books. Yeah, and then all of these are a given. They're behind me, so I can't reach them, but Teeming with Fungi, Teeming with Microbes, and Teeming with Nutrients. All of those books are just about truly leveraging soil health in order to make your landscape more climate resilient, more resilient in general, higher yielding, lower maintenance, all of those things. So soil health is everything.
All right. New to gardening and a very, not sure. Okay, I missed that one there. So do you recommend clover in zone 9B in Texas? I have St. Augustine grass right now. This is it's JBay 12.
I think you could try it depending on where you are in Texas. If it's very, very dry, maybe not. Clover it's trickier than people think. I think clover is having this moment right now. And really, it kind of needs additional biodiversity in order to truly thrive. So I could say, go ahead and give your lawn a really good aeration, and then mow it down super short, get a hard rake the St. Augustine really well so that there's a lot of opportunity for seed to soil contact, and then overseed with some clover and see what happens. It's going to be about observation and adjustment. I might suggest yarrow, which is definitely native to all of Texas. Does require a once a month mow to keep it from forming woody stems, but that would definitely be very resilient in comparison to clover, which is it's fairly delicate as a plant in general.
Okay, this person has crabgrass. I want to know if they need to dig it up or cover with mulch. They live in Southern California.
Oh,
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Hi. I would go ahead. There's a couple of options. It depends what you want to replace it with. If you want to plant a gorgeous perennial landscape, you can go ahead and cover it with mulch. I say this as someone who manually removed sod from a lawn today. It was my daytime activity today. It was a lot of work. And so if you're planting a gorgeous perennial landscape, you could get some landscape edging in on the sides to allow for a little more height buildup on the soil. You put down contractor paper or cardboard, and then you just layer compost and mulch and then plant directly into that. That'll be fine. You'll have some grass poke through. Crabgrass is a resilient lady. You will have her come through, but you'll just continue to add mulch over the years to continue to suppress that. If you want to plant a more drought tolerant grass, like if you live in Los Angeles, a UC Verde buffalo grass would be like, if you have full sun, you would want to sod cut out all of that grass and just start from scratch with some buffalo grass plugs. So it really depends. But since you are in Los Angeles, while we're here talking about it, please make sure that you get the turf buyback rebate, because it is $3 a square foot in Los Angeles. And if you aren't getting that prior to starting work on your home, I don't know what you're doing. So get that money, honey.
Don't leave that on the table.
Yeah.
All right. Another great question. Moved into a new house. How do I track the light that the yard is getting?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. You're going to download an app. It's called Sunseeker. Okay. It costs a couple of dollars, but it's the best app in the whole world. I use this literally every day for work. So it has a VR feature. So you hit the button that says 3D, and then you can straight up hold the phone like you're taking a photo. It'll show you your yard in real time. And then it has these lines that go across it that show you the path of the sun at any time of the year. And you can literally change it. There's a calendar and you can change it. So you can see exactly how much light your yard gets in December or June. Make sure if you are planting a full sun plant that it has 6+ hours of sun from March. This is if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, March to October minimum, because we want it to have 6+ hours while it is exiting dormancy.
Fantastic. Any tips for planting a poultry and duck yard? I want to add some 7 to 8 foot tall bushes, full sun. I'm not sure what DFW means.
Dallas-Fort Worth.
Dallas-Fort Worth. I learned something new.
You're going to go to either Twin City Seed or PT Lawn Seed, and you're going to get a forage blend, because these companies are awesome and they know that amazing people like you exist, and they have lawn seed blends specifically formulated to be of nutritional value for ducks and chickens and goats and other such creatures. So get a nice forage blend and broadcast those seeds. As far as, there are definitely some plants that are toxic to chickens as far as if you want to do landscape borders. So just quadruple check all of the plants you do on the landscape, on the edges.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, we're buying a house in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and I'm wanting to kill the grass and replace it. Do you have any suggestions based on the location?
Okay, we'll replace it with what? And I don't know, but I'm imagining she's gonna say a perennial landscape, other than just with another form of grass. Should we just say that?
Sure.
Okay, so if you're gonna replace it with a perennial landscape, then I would go ahead and sheet mulch the entire thing, and then get native asters, sunflowers. What's another really good one? Oh, tick seed coreopsis, very beautiful, wonderful keystone species for the Midwest. And then go for the native prairie grasses that are the species that are bred for being ornamental landscaping grasses. So that's little blue stem, big blue stem, blue grama, side oats grama. These are ornamental grasses, but they are essentially the same native low prairie grasses that blanketed all of the middle of the United States. And that's just incredibly ecologically important to have in our cities and suburbs. So do that.
Okay. Any Eastern Pennsylvania seed recommendations?
Grass seed, do you think?
Well, we can say grass seed.
let's see. I don't have an East Coast. I look at Twin Cities. See, they are based in the Midwest. But I love on the East Coast. I'm a fan of the sedges, which isn't even technically grass, but they're so much lower maintenance than grass. So look into your area, search your area, and then look for sedges as ground cover and see what comes up, because it's fabulous.
Right. Call Me Johnny on TikTok wants to know what your favorite novel ways are to use the margins.
Oh, like a permaculture thing. Love that. Okay, let's think. Like valuing edge and using the margins. We were just on a project where there is like I would call them wetlands. There's a depression in the yard where water is pooling. We're having a record-breaking snow year here in Utah, and they live near one of the major wildlife corridors. And so we are actually kind of building in a permaculture style pond in their yard to be supportive to, the local wildlife, as well as potentially ducks that they're going to be keeping. And we are planning out all of the different riparian and wetland species that we can plant along the edges and margins of this pond, which is going to be really, really cool. We're going to be doing cattails. We're going to be doing like wild rice and other edibles as well. And so we're really just trying to maximize the yield as much as possible, which is really rad.
All right, our first question live on YouTube. Tanya Rodriguez wants to know a good ground cover suggestion for sandy soil 9B in Central Florida. Have no grass.
Frog fruit.
Frog fruit.
The answer is frog fruit. It's not actually that. I mean, it's not fruit for frogs, but it's a beautiful, wonderful, low-growing ground cover native to Florida, Central and South Florida specifically. It is wonderful. I myself am not an expert on gardening in Florida because I live in Utah, and those are very different things. However, there is a friend of mine who's also on YouTube. Her handle is Wild Floridian, and she is, her name's Jacqueline. And I strongly recommend you go check out her channel. She has like 800 videos, and I believe she's planting a frog fruit lawn this year. She's doing it right now, so you can follow along in real time.
Okay. Curly Headed on TikTok. Lives in Memphis, Tennessee. Lots of shade. What alt lawn ideas out there? Doesn't have to be grass. Just want something cool.
Okay. If it is grass, fescues are the way to go because they're shade tolerant, and that's amazing because they're low mow, they're low maintenance, they're beautiful. But I would look in Tennessee. I'm thinking specifically, I would look into creeping phlox. I would look into like low growing woodland specific native plants. So I would search, when you're Googling things, I'd search Tennessee native woodland plants. This could be like woodland sunflower. This could be poke milkweed would be rad. Creeping phlox is really low growing. It only maxes out at like 3 inches. So that could maybe be the main thing. And then you go higher at the edges. But you're specifically going to want to search like woodland native because that's going to give you that like part to full shade tolerance. Awesome.
Okay. Question. How do you tackle a yard that is 80% dirt? It wasn't maintained from the previous owner. They live in Colorado.
I mean, that's fine. Like there's worse things than it being dirt already, right? So you're going to want to get something in to stabilize the soil, whether that's a gorgeous perennial landscape or a ground cover of some kind. What is likely, though, if it has been dirt for a long time, is that the soil is nutrient deficient and the soil is also compacted. So I would get yourself a soil test so that you know if you are going to need to till amendments into the soil, or if you could start your no-till journey now and maybe layer some on top. But you really need to have all of the data first. So I would go ahead and check out Colorado's Land Grant University's Ag Extension, get a soil test sent in, and then once you have that data, amend the soil accordingly. I am going to add a little note here, though, that the recommendations they put in those soil tests, when they're like put in 50 pounds of nitrogen or whatever, these are immediately with an agricultural focus. So make sure that you think about what planting a native landscape would like. You don't necessarily need to change the pH and the nitrogen level to be able to grow a tomato in your front yard unless you want to grow a tomato in your front yard. So just be careful with those recommendations because native plants need far fewer nutrients than annual vegetables do. After you have the data, amend this. Oh, I'm sorry, microphone. Amend the soil accordingly, and then get a ground cover in. In Colorado, there are so many amazing like native ground covers that replicate prairie grasses and things like that. So search your native range to find a ground cover, or if we're doing perennials, little blue stem, big blue stem. We've got penstemons up the wazoo, asters up the wazoo, sunflowers, all amazing ecologically important plants.
Excellent. Okay, Motormouth74 on TikTok wanted to do a clover in their dog's play area, but they're worried about an all clover flower because they're also worried about
the bees.
Yep, that seems to be a big recurring theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things you could do. One, you could get dog tough grass, which is specifically formulated. It's a company out of Colorado. It's DOGTUFF. That is specifically if you have high energy dogs that require something extremely durable to foot traffic. Clover would not hold up to that kind of dog anyway. I'm talking if you have like Australian Shepherds, Border Collies, Huskies, things that are running all around, you're going to want something that will really hold up to foot traffic. And the only thing I know of that's truly low maintenance, xeric, and can actually handle that is dog tough. If you have a sweet corgi that just needs a place to lounge in the sun, get some fescues in, do the fescue yarrow mix, or if you want to keep some clover, you're just going to have to mow it every 2 weeks to keep it from flowering, and that's going to prevent those bees from coming in.
Okay, let's take a couple questions from YouTube. Ground cover suggestions. Okay, we already did the Central Florida question. Sorry about that. Deb wants to know if you have any recommendations for shade ground cover in Zone 5.
I always am going to recommend something that's native to your range. So Deb, if you are still watching, you can pop in and let me know where you are actually from, state, county, region, whatever, because there are so many things that are going to work for Zone 5, but Zone 5 can be literally anywhere. In general, did they say shade tolerant? Is that?
Shade ground cover, yeah.
Shade ground cover. In general, fescues, clover, and then there are the woodland ground covers. So I had mentioned creeping phlox. That's a woodland native ground cover to the eastern United States, specifically like the Appalachian mountain range kind of region. So it really, again, just depends where you are.
Yeah, Deb says they're in Indiana.
Indiana, okay. Off the top of my head, immediately I'm just like fescues. But I would go ahead and Google creeping woodland ground covers, Indiana, native range. And if you find anything, double check the Googling. There's like a second round of Googling you need to do where then you type that name in with the scientific name. Type in the scientific name, native range, just to triple check that that's actually native to where you are.
Awesome. Diana Jennings comment, so awesome that you're booked out, but super bummed for her. She just finished up a build in Farmington, Utah, and after talking to landscapers, they just don't get it. They just do grass and rocks.
They just do grass or rocks. Yes, I am booked out. I am building my team so that I can hopefully continue to do designs this summer. However, if you wanted to work together on something for an install late this fall or early next spring, which I would love to do that. There are still lots of things to be done, especially if you're DIYing your landscape. There are still lots of things to be done between now and then. And I think clients are often surprised on how much work it is to actually flip a yard. So I have clients where we're not going to do their install until October, but just sheet mulching, solarizing, getting their soil tested, getting quotes from contractors, getting their irrigation ready, all of those things. They're going to be working on those every weekend all summer long. So if you want to get the party started, let's get a consult booked and let's get talking about it.
Curly-headed follow-up sources for getting bulk seeds for creeping phlox and woodland plants. She has no idea where to start.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, you can definitely search it, but there's some great online native plant resources. We've got Prairie Nursery and also Prairie Moon Nursery, and I think they are different companies, but I'm not sure. But one is Prairie Nursery, One is Prairie Moon Nursery. We also have Garden for Wildlife. I'm not sure if they have creeping phlox specifically, but they do have most of the middle and eastern United States covered in terms of their where they ship to and the kinds of plants they have. So check out those 3 places. And when in doubt, just search like the scientific name for creeping phlox. And I think it's important that you do the scientific name, because with creeping phlox specifically, there are several plants that use that. And I have the scientific name on my phone, but my phone's being used to do this live. So I could maybe get back to you. I'll tell Lee to save your name.
Every phone in this room is being used to
somewhere. Check it out. Just check out Prairie Moon Nursery, and Garden for Wildlife. I hope that one of those has that for you, but the internet has the answers. I'm sure it does.
All right. Another question on TikTok. Are there sites that you would recommend to get inspiration for DIYing a yard?
Oh, that's fascinating. What websites?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, sites like a botanical garden. Wow. I don't know.
Where do you go for inspiration?
I occasionally looked at the Pinterest, but I'm trying to think for DIYing it specifically. I'm sorry, I don't know. I just removed a whole sod lawn, just me and this man right here behind the camera, and my husband and one other person. And the thought of DIYing anything else again makes me want to crawl into a hole.
I would recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel, because we're going to be putting up a lot of video content on how to do most of this stuff.
Yeah, that's a much better answer, Lee.
I'm not as tired as you. We have a video. I just have to say, we have a video going up next week of Daryl pushing a wheelbarrow 3 times heavier than she is back and forth across this site for 4 freaking hours.
Okay, guys, where should you go for inspiration on DIYing your own landscape? You should go to our YouTube channel. I'm so bad at this. You should go to our YouTube channel, because yes, we are walking folks through the 4 ways to flip a lawn from being a lawn to a native landscape. So we've got solarizing, sod cutting, sheet mulching, and overseeding, and we're doing videos on all of them. Today, we did sod cutting, and boy, are we all going to be sore tomorrow, because that was hard. That was hard.
I actually love this question, because we were talking about it earlier. Call me Johnny on TikTok. What do you find helps best with imposter syndrome in the landscape design space?
Wow, this is such a great question. Lee, can you top me off on the sake so I can answer this question? And now a note from our spot. No, I'm kidding. No, here, just hand me the bottle, please. Thank you. No, this is not sponsored. This is not product placement.
Our sponsor is Yardcore.
However, this is my friend. My friend Jill makes this. So if you live in Salt Lake or Utah and you like alcohol or alcoholic bevies in general, and you want queer-owned, women-owned, people of color-owned artisanal sake. Again, this wasn't sponsored. This is just because I love my friend. Which
is funny, because Pancake Griff said for inspiration, I go to a distillery. So we're on the same boat here.
Okay, yeah, so imposter syndrome. I had it a lot because I'm not formally trained as a landscape designer. In Utah, and also, I mean, in most states, there's a difference between a landscape designer and a landscape architect. Thank you so much, good sir. So a landscape architect is permitted to design structural elements like retaining walls and structures in general, and they're also certified and licensed to provide detailed construction documents. So I can say, dig to this depth and pour to this height and reinforce with X, Y, and Z if you're a licensed landscape architect in any given state. I am not that. As per the law, you don't need that kind of certification in order to be a landscape designer, which is horticulturally focused and also conceptual and layout focused. So I can say retaining wall goes there, but it is up to the discretion of the homeowner to determine how to build that, or to work with a licensed professional to build that. I can say pergola goes there, but it's up to the homeowner to, not screw that up, basically, if that makes sense. I can't provide them detailed construction documents on how to do it. All of that was very long-winded, but I still, because I did not have formal training outside of my permaculture certification, I still really, really struggled with this this feeling of my business was taking off too quickly, and I thought I would have more time to really like pay my dues and do the work and have like just demonstrable proof of what I can do. And it really just sort of took off. And so what I ended up doing was, in the areas where I was weakest, I found people who I now love and work with every day to support me in those things. So I am fabulous at plant knowledge, at like doing the permaculture stuff, doing the sustainability strategy, doing the conceptual layouts. I'm fabulous at color. I'm fabulous at lines. I'm fabulous at vibes. I know a lot about historical architectural styles and the ways that those things mix. And I mean, I was at a consult yesterday in Layton, or was it the day before yesterday? It doesn't matter.
Time's a construct.
A time is a flat circle. I was at a consult, and she couldn't articulate what her personal style was. And she's like, it's not cottage and it's not Victorian, but it's not this. And then I looked around her house and I'm like, it's craftsman, it's arts and crafts. You need an arts and crafts garden. And I pulled up one picture and she said, yes. And then she hired me on the spot. So I know I'm good at this stuff, but because I didn't have formal training, I really struggled. I really struggled with feeling like I was not ready to do this. And then I realized that landscape architects exist, and I can contract them to draft architectural plans if they are complicated and make my head hurt. So I guess to answer your question, like really lean into the areas where you are amazing and you know you're amazing and you're confident, and do that and wow people with that. And then in the areas where you are weakest, ask for help and get support and subcontract out that work. That doesn't make you an imposter. That just makes you a good business person who's working efficiently and doing their job well. And I think once I finally had a workflow that made sense, I finally could be like, oh, I'm not an imposter. Like, this is just my workflow, and I'm very, very good at what I do. I just don't have to do all of it, you know?
You just gave really good life advice. That wasn't just design advice. Paulette, we're also enjoying this Geek Show gardening crossover. So thanks for the comment.
What? How did he know?
Paulette knows. Paulette's very smart. So
Geek Show. Oh, this is rad.
My people are everywhere, Daryl.
I'm sorry for screaming. I'm sorry for screaming into the mic. It's all good. But I was so excited that they recognized you.
Getting some great compliments on your responses. That's fantastic. So, and of course, building that confidence by learning and asking questions. Gotta love that. So, all right, let's see. We have some more questions over here.
Do we?
We just a shout out. We've got people. This is our first live stream on YouTube, so it's great that people are checking that out. And we've had some people just steadily tuned in for the whole thing. So that's awesome. And we've got about 40 people on TikTok.
Oh, that's rad.
So that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, TikTok. Thanks for showing up for me, man.
All right. Question now. This was submitted from last week's grass class. How do I prep the ground to plant native wildflowers in the Pacific Northwest?
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, the good news is, I don't know what's there right now. So you're going to want to assess what you have there now. If there are any invasive species, go ahead and remove those. If they're non-invasive but non-native, you could maybe learn to live with them. If it's just grass, you're going to want to remove that in one of those 4 ways that we talked about. And then all you're really going to need is about 1 inch of compost spread everywhere, just to provide like a soft little gentle pillow for those seeds to germinate. These native wildflowers are used to your native soil. So unless you are in a place, I guess I'm going to preface, if you are in a new build zone where they have brought in fill dirt that is not native soil, that is when you're going to want to amend your soil to be better than it is. But if you are in a historical home, or you are on, farmland or anything like that, you're near the woods, you're going to have native soil that those native wildflowers really like. Therefore, you don't have to do much to prep the ground except give it just like a soft surface to germinate in, and then those roots are just going to go in and do their thing.
I love the question we're going to get to after this question. I'm in the Midwest. Any suggestions for creeping plants that can go over a boulder wall?
Oh, I love that. Sedums.
Sedums.
They're native to the Midwest. There are so many kinds. They're native to most places actually in the US, except for Utah, which is really annoying to me because I love these plants. But yes, you're going to want to get some sedums, trailing sedums, creeping sedums. They have ones that grow up high, and they love rocks. They love rock gardens. They're basically in the succulent. They are in the succulent family. Ignore the word basically. Yeah.
Okay, Patty has a question on TikTok. If I throw some hand warmers under my tarped tomatoes, do you think they'll be okay at 32 degrees
That
Fahrenheit?
is the best thing I've ever heard. That is so awesome. Maybe. I mean, maybe you've tarped them, so that's already really good. What I have seen people do is get like the little, oh, what are those called? They're like the little electric warmer. Oh, gosh, it's
like a space heater?
It's not like a space heater because you don't. Gosh, I'm online, so I don't have time to think of this. But yes, there are solar powered warmers that might be really interesting to look into, like for chicken coops. Something like that might be really cool. Hand warmers are really tiny. They're really little. But something that could be fun to look into would be to like passively warm, like heat up some jugs in the sun, like black jugs filled with water, and heat them up during the day in the sun, and then place them in there overnight. And they'll take a few hours to disperse that heat. That could be really interesting. 32 is like, I mean, if they're tarped already, I think they might survive at 32. So you're really just wanting to provide just a little extra something, just extra.
It's amazing what they do with just a little insulation.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would, and just make sure they're heavily mulched, please. Like 2 inches of wood chips or straw or something, because that's really where it matters, is right there at the base of the plant.
All right. Another great question on TikTok. I love a wildflower garden, but what kind of year to year upkeep does that require?
Oh, that's a great question. It really depends on where you're sowing the wildflowers. If you're doing like a meadow style, there's almost no year-to-year upkeep, depending on if you are sowing annual or perennial wildflowers. And most native wildflower seed mixes are a mix of those. So those annuals will reseed to some capacity, but you're probably going to want to do a once a year little sprinkle to keep things updated. Other than that, I think it's the first year that's going to require the most maintenance because it hasn't filled in yet. So those wildflowers are going to be competing with weeds. So you're just going to want to be vigilant about it in the first few months, specifically hand pulling any weeds before those wildflowers really get to take off. And then for the first year, I would say just continue to like spring and fall, sow those wildflower seeds. I think once you have a good thing going, the maintenance becomes almost nothing.
Amazing. All right. Katie has asked for the northern Utah area if you have any ideas for garden ground cover that won't spread into an adjoining neighbor's yard. I love that conscientiousness.
Yeah, that's so nice. That's so nice. Let me think. I think the least aggressive ground covers, clover is fairly aggressive actually. And so are a lot of other ones. I honestly think like a creeping thyme or a Veronica speedwell are probably the slowest growing and least aggressive ground covers. And they also just have a fabulous fairy tale kind of look, especially when spreading between those like kind of irregularly shaped pavers. We love to see it. Those are definitely less aggressive than clover, for example. I think that's probably what I would recommend. Yeah.
Okay, Charity Murphy on TikTok wants to know if you would do TikTok videos on the different garden types like arts and crafts, Victorian, etc. I
would love to. Maybe Lee can help me with that.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen.
Thank you for asking, because I love that stuff.
All right. Diana Jennings on YouTube. Can you make a yard look manicured and still be drought tolerant? I don't want my neighbors to hate me.
That is in Farmington, Utah. Hi, Diana. You're in Farmington. Guess what? I'm in Murray, so we're a solid 25 minutes away from each other. So if you need help, my website is the same as my handles on all platforms, and you can find some information on how to chit chat with me, and we can work together on a design.
I really want to shoot a video in Farmington anyway, because they have some of those really cool old stone houses.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, Farmington's awesome. Just really neat old houses there.
I was there in Farmington. I have a client in Farmington right now that we were at last week, and we're doing a really heavily cottagecore style backyard for her, where we're basically making it look like you've entered another parallel universe. We want it to be like, yeah, you've entered Narnia and now you are just among the fairies is the vibe of that yard. I got distracted. What was the question? Oh, how to make it manicured. Okay, so here are the ways that you make a native landscape look not bananas. Okay. So you are going to want to keep your lines and your shapes as formal and clean and straight as possible, as close to the house as you can. So when we're talking the direct border around the house, all the lines are clean, all the shapes are formal. That means that you have, instead of like everything mixed together, you have rows of things. So you've got a low and a medium and a high, and it's very sort of clean and organized as close to the house you get. The further away from the house you get in any direction, the more irregular and wild your lines and your shapes and your groupings can be, and it just feels natural to the brain and the eye. So it still kind of maintains that curb appeal. So you can start embracing that sort of like wild, lush, perennial landscape the further away you get from the home, but keep it more organized closer. The other things you can do, group things in groupings of 3, 5, or 7. Do not say one of everything. Don't do that, because the larger you have the groups of the same thing, the more the eye can just like calmly travel through. And then the third thing I would say is allow room for negative space. So if curb appeal is really important, or keeping your neighbors satisfied is important, create an intentional shape to have like a low growing ground cover, or a grass, or a clover, or a sedge, or anything like that, where it looks like a lawn, or it just generally doesn't extend more than 3 inches high, and have a very large intentional shape. Typically directly in front of the home is the most common place to do that, because when you have all of this lush stuff and then you have the house, are you picturing this with me? You have the house, you kind of have all this lush stuff, and then it kind of comes down, you have negative space here in the middle. That allows the eye to rest and like calm down and like take a breath, because the eyes can breathe in this scenario. So those are ways that you can still embrace native plants, but not make the brain just be like, that's an overgrown lot, because we don't want that. Oh, and books, because we were talking about books. An amazing book for that. Let me find it. Planting in a Post-Wild World. And it's all about native, lush, perennial landscapes. It's really bright. Hold on. Can you see that? There you go. That's a fabulous coffee table book for you. And it's about that. 10 out of 10 recommend.
That's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
All right. Liz Gogo on TikTok. What's the best way to identify invasive plants? A book or an app, in your opinion?
It's the app. I use Leaf Snap. Picture This is also one. I use Leaf Snap personally. I recommend everybody does a complete plant audit of their entire property. So you walk your entire property in the middle of summer when everything's leafed out and you can identify everything, and you make an Excel spreadsheet. This might be the neurodivergence talking. I'm sorry, but I do have one of these for my own yard and for all of my clients' yards. You make an Excel spreadsheet with every single plant in your yard, invasive, native, whatever, doesn't matter. Because that can allow you to start making decisions of, do I want to manage this invasive? Do I want to try to remove it? Do I want to try to live with it? There are ways to embrace invasive species beyond just trying to go to war with them and rip them out. But you need to know what's there first before you make a plan.
Gotcha. Great question here from Call Me Johnny. And thanks. Call Me Johnny's been following us along pretty much from the beginning.
Call Me Johnny, so. You're a winner. You're a real one.
Yep.
You're going to get a free mug or something. I don't know.
Are you using biochar in your designs?
I'm so happy you asked that. Yes, we love biochar. We stand biochar. There's a wonderful company in Utah called Go Biochar. Wait, is this John from Go Biochar? Call me Johnny. Are you John from Go Biochar? Because I owe you an email, and I know that I do, but I'm just very busy and I'm very stressed. Yes, biochar is an absolutely incredible medium. For anybody watching who does not know what biochar is, I have a ton of footage from visiting John at Go Biochar that I'm planning to edit into a YouTube video very soon. Biochar is this incredible substance that is charcoal adjacent, but essentially, follow along with me, America. Follow along with me, America. So a tree falls in the forest, okay? What happens to that tree? It starts to decompose. That tree has been fixing is it carbon? Yes, CO2 from the atmosphere for its entire life. It's amazing. It's helping combat climate change. We love it. We love the tree for that. But it's still a net positive. It's still fixing way more carbon than it's going to release. But as the tree has died and fallen over, now all this carbon is back. It's back in the air. And we're like, damn it. All this good work just gone.
My carbon.
Just the carbon back in the atmosphere. We're trying to prevent that. So what biochar does, it puts the tree in this cool as, am I allowed to curse on live? This cool as heck. I would say another word if I was sure. If I
just stay away from the big ones.
Yeah, well, I like to use the big ones, so I'm gonna just
stay away from the big one.
I like to use the big ones, but anyway, it's cool. It's really cool. I'm just not gonna curse, but darn it, now I've distracted myself. So they put the tree in this really cool machine called a pyrolyzer. Sounds rad, right?
Yeah.
And it heats the carbon up to this extremely high temperature, and it produces this charcoal-like substance that becomes, and this is John from Go Biochar's terminology, high-rise condos for beneficial microbial activity, okay? So it's an amazing garden amendment to put in your soil. But the cool thing about it is that it has fixed that carbon indefinitely, and it will never release back into the atmosphere. So it is, by definition, a carbon negative product, which I think is the coolest thing in the whole world. I think it's so cool. And biochar is getting on the carbon market. So like when companies want to buy carbon credits to offset their own carbon emissions, they're going to be able to support biochar initiatives, which I think is so cool. So anyway, Johnny, if you happen to be John from Go Biochar, I know I owe you an email. If you are not that, I still owe John from Go Biochar an email. Anyway, my inbox is really full.
Mindra Rose wants to know, she's starting to gather cardboard for her lawn.
Awesome.
Should she put the cardboard down first and then mulch and then leave it till fall and then seed? What are the steps here?
Okay, yes. So if you are going to sheet mulch and then plan to seed a lawn rather than planting perennial starts, you are going to want to give time for that sheet mulch to really smother out the lawn before. So yes, I would go ahead and do cardboard and then wood mulch and then compost. And you want the compost on top, not on bottom, because you're going to be seeding grass. And if you put wood mulch on top, the seeds are going to be like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? Right? So that's why we need the compost on top. Normally, if you were going to plant a perennial landscape, we would put the compost beneath the wood mulch because the wood mulch helps to, suppress weeds and keep the soil moist. But if you're germinating something, we need the compost on top. Yes, I would give it many, many months, as many months as you can manage to allow that wood mulch to start breaking down, that microbial activity to start moving and grooving, and also to give time for the grass beneath to go dormant and eventually die. And that would also allow you, as that grass starts to poke through, you can see that it's poking through because you're not confusing that with your new grass, and then you can smother that again with an additional layer. And then fall's an amazing time to seed because that grass underneath, anything that isn't already dead, will be dormant for the entire winter, which will give, time for your new grass to establish.
That's awesome. Oceanic Mama on TikTok. What other books do you recommend? She's an CA-based horticulture student specializing in landscapes.
Oh, that's so rad. So you're in California. I don't know if you're at sea level or not. I have so many good books. My favorite, there was just somebody in the mountains above Bakersfield who we were talking about this book. You're probably at sea level, but Native Plants for High Elevation Western Gardens is really like an encyclopedia for me. I love that one. If that is not your speed, because that's very niche to location, I'm thinking about if I were studying horticulture and landscapes, what gaps would there be? And I'm going straight to soil, because if you're studying horticulture, you already are learning about plants. You know about the plants in your area. You know what to do. But I think the thing that really separates a sustainable landscaper from a regular landscaper is our knowledge of climate resilience and soil health and mycelial activity and all of those things. So the books I would recommend are Mycelium Running is a really great one. How Mushrooms Can Save the World. Amazing book about soil health, about mycelial remediation. So we're able to use mycelium and mushrooms to remediate lead and petroleum products and toxic materials from soil. And like these are, there are nuclear sites and things like that where we're able to actually heal the soil with mycelium. I'm actually having a conversation with a client right now who's in the Avenues in Salt Lake City. We have really old homes here, and there's lead in the soil and other petroleum products in the soil. And we are going to be using mycoremediation to heal his soil for 1 to 2 years before he starts planting an annual vegetable garden to make sure that all of that food is safe to eat. So this is just so cool. And honestly, I think any landscaper that wants to really invest time in soil health and climate resilience is going to be significantly better off for it. So that's a recommendation. Another one in that exact same family, and I talk about this in like every live that I do, teaming with fungi, same kind of book, just different kind of information. So these two are sort of companion pieces. I literally have 2 copies of this book because I take this out with me into the field. So I have 1 copy that I allow myself to get dirty, and I have this copy that I keep clean. Yeah, that's great. I'm like spilling stuff, like everything's falling because I'm moving everything around too much.
Okay, another question on TikTok. She says she owes you an email. Speaking of, she owes you an email. They sheet mulch their yard, but not enough seedlings are coming up. So question about what to do in that situation.
Do I owe her an email?
No, she owes you an email.
She is, who is it?
Cancery Crab?
I don't know who you are. Okay, sorry, what was the question?
It's not so much a question, so more of a statement. They sheet mulch their yard, but not enough seedlings are coming up. So if there's anything we can do about that.
Okay.
I'm assuming. I'm going to ask the question on their behalf.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, it depends on where you are, because right now nothing is coming up because we had a blizzard like a week ago.
So let's see.
So yeah, so if you're near me, don't sweat it and maybe overseed again, because if anything germinated and then got killed off by the frost, that could potentially be it. Or you can, if you sheet mulched, I don't know what you use to sheet mulch, but we want to make sure that there's plenty of nutrients for these little baby starts to really kind of get their footing. So we usually like to use a really good organic compost for that. I don't know what your situation is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if they have specific questions, of course, they can shoot you an email. So how do you recommend leveling a lawn? Could they do that by adding more layers of dirt where they need it?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, so there are really great YouTube videos on this, actually. I know that because I've sent links of them to clients. The most popular way seems to be a mix of compost and sand that you actually rake in order to level it out, and then you overseed new lawn on top.
That's a good one.
But check the YouTubes because the videos are there.
All right. Patio Green says, sorry for another question. I would say our answer to that is don't be.
Don't be. Continue to ask them.
Continue to ask questions.
We need people to ask the questions in order to continue making these videos.
What would you do to loosen up clay soil? It's like 70% clay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of answers for this.
Okay.
If we don't want to till, and there's reasons to till and there's reasons not to till. Honestly, I'm much more inclined to till like a compacted sand or something versus a clay, because clay actually, surprisingly, and I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty science of it, but clay actually is able to allow plants to uptake nutrients significantly more than sand is because of the way atoms work. It's really wild. What I would say is we need to get a cover crop or some kind of really deep tap-rooted plant in that soil. So again, it really depends on your situation, because not everybody can just sow a cover crop in their yard, right? But clover and nitrogen fixing ground cover would be interesting. It depends. Are you still on the live? Is she still there?
I think so.
Tell me more about like how big is your property, and is this a front yard? Are we worried about curb appeal? I need those kind of factors. Also, what region are you in? And also, yeah, that's all I need to know. Like state, general state, growing zone. I mean, I guess there are different climates in different states. Just tell me the general region.
And a couple
city, county, something like that.
A couple people wanting to know when you start looking for apprentices or collaborators.
Oh, man, so soon. I'm dying.
Okay.
If you are I'm just going to throw this out. If you're on the live and you're watching and you are interested, I do need help in the permaculture design and design assistant space. So feel free to send me your resume and an intro about you, because yes, we are probably expanding our team this year by 3 to 5 people.
Okay, just a comment about dandelions. This person has an acre of property and dandelions in Ohio. I'm not sure if they're just making that statement or if they're asking what to do about dandelions. Are dandelions a bad thing?
Yes and no. They're a bad thing because our culture has made them a bad thing. They're sort of like the poster child for weeds, right? But honestly, I kind of think they're the poster child for weeds because Monsanto was like, dandelions, bad, buy Roundup. Like, I think that's actually why we don't like dandelions. Dandelions are beneficial for 2 reasons. 1, they are incredible medicinal plants. Yes, Google it. There are amazing medicinal benefits to dandelions. And then 2, they are a thing called dynamic accumulators. And what a dynamic accumulator is something that actually has the power to reach down into the soil with its taproot and access nutrients that are not bioavailable to other plants, and then pull those nutrients up and store those nutrients in their biomass. So dandelions are incredibly they're of incredible value as fertilizer for your other plants, but we wouldn't know that because Monsanto wants you to spray Roundup on them. That's really the thing. So what you can do is you can pull your dandelions and make a fertilizer tea out of them, and then go ahead and just like get one of those cute little backpacks or some, you know what I'm talking about, those cute little fertilizer backpacks, and spray that. It's like free fertilizer, hardcore. Or you could dehydrate the dandelions, make teas to drink because they have incredible nutritional and medicinal value.
They're great on a salad.
And they're great on a salad. Thank you, Lee. So yeah, dandelions get so much hate. Also, pollinators love them.
They do.
Like, why do we hate dandelions? It's because of Monsanto. Monsanto made you hate dandelions.
And aren't dandelions like one of the first food crops that pollinators have?
Yeah, literally. It's crocus and dandelions. That's what they got right now in Utah, at least.
All right, so clarification. She was saying about the dandelions in the acre of Northeast Idaho. This is the person with the 70% clay soil.
Oh, so that's what. Oh, okay, yeah. Perfect. Okay, yeah, I don't hate the dandelions. So if you have an acre of land, I would go ahead, except for the area directly around your house, just for like ease of passage and walking and curb appeal, everything that isn't directly in front of your house, go ahead and get like a fabulous cover crop sown on everything. Because what that's going to do is the taproots of that cover crop are going to reach down. You can inoculate the cover crop in the mycorrhizal fungi that I talked about earlier in this live. And there is actually, there's this amazing company, they're called Green Cover. So you can go to greencover.com. They have a smart mix where you can custom build your own cover crop.
Cool.
And they also have pre-made mixes, and they have one that's called like a mycelial mix. So it's or a mycorrhizal mix, I think is what it's called. So it's specifically for getting that mycorrhizal activity jump started, which is what's going to help transform your clay into loam. So I would go ahead and get organic matter like wood chips, some compost, and then get a cover crop sown directly on top of that for everything that's on that acre, except for, again, right around your house. Because after a year of that, you're already going to be in such better shape than you were before. You can keep some of that cover crop just as like prairie kind of wild meadow vibes, or when you're ready to plant something else into it, you just chop it at the base and drop it. That turns into a mulch for whatever you're going to plant next.
And that organic matter just kind of helps loosen up the clay content.
Cycles right through. Yeah, and the mycorrhizal fungi and everything. So you're able to actually transform clay to loam over the course of several years of just cycling through this amazing beneficial cover crop. There's usually legumes in the cover crop, so they're fixing nitrogen into the soil, as well as things with really deep tap roots that are able to access all of those nutrients from down below. And then the mycorrhizal fungi, there's a lot that goes into the fungi thing, but they need a living plant host. So they attach themselves to the plant roots, and then they basically eat whatever the plant roots are giving them, like the sugars. It's like
sucrose.
Well, the term is exudates, and it's kind of like if we think about the way skin sweats, roots do whatever that is. And those exudates are what the mycorrhizal fungi eat. And then whatever the mycorrhizal fungi process that, and then whatever comes out after is what forms true like living food web soil structure. Like that's the stuff that we want. So cover crop is really the way to go without just mass tilling your entire property. And tilling, while sometimes necessary if your soil just has nothing worth saving, right? It does absolutely destroy all of that soil structure I just talked about, that those beneficial microbes were working on building. So we don't want to till unless we absolutely have to.
Right. Okay, another question. What kind of clover seed mix would you recommend for a partial sun lawn?
I would just mix it in with something else. I've talked about it before at length, but there's a mix from PT Lawn Seeds that is clover, fescues, and yarrow. And that biodiversity really allows for like a resilient, biodiverse, happy lawn. Clover on its own, just straight up, just is not resilient enough to truly be an effective lawn long term.
Curly Headed said that her jaw is on the floor at all this information. So
Thank
there's a lot of people very, very happy with
That's
this.
what I'm saying, man. I love this stuff. I love it so much. I love it so much.
Okay, Rebel Greens wants to know if they can amend their fill dirt to grow a garden. There's free dirt down the street and it's talking to me.
The free dirt, so the free dirt is fill dirt. Is that what I'm hearing? So are you okay, Rebel Greens, are you still there? Are you going to put that in a raised bed? Like, what are we talking? Are we just piling that up on the soil? Because fill dirt, I don't know what kind of fill dirt it is, but in general, it's useless. There's nothing good about it. So I would say you would be better served by putting in your own carbon and making your own compost and kind of getting to the point of free dirt that way, even though it takes longer. You could get the free dirt, get some really good organic fertilizer, get some mycorrhizal fungi inoculated in some wood chips, get like an amazing cover crop planted. But even still, I think you're a season away from having useful garden space. If you are comfortable with time, if you're willing to be patient, you could do that. And just as a little side note, I have a client who in Salt Lake, who I just saw this week, and she had answered a Facebook Marketplace ad for compost. But what the person had actually dropped off and filled all of her beds with was actually just a raked out horse stall that had not actually been composted. So when I was looking in these beds and I was like, is the compost underneath these wood shavings? Or like, where is the compost? And it turns out like that was the compost. It was just wood shavings and horse manure. That was the only thing in there. And in order to prevent her from having to hand shovel out thousands of pounds, because these were like so many raised beds, huge 4x12 raised beds, huge beds. We have to immediately get some really good nutritious compost and soil on top of that and get a cover crop zone. And now she's a full season away from having viable soil. So don't just take whatever dirt is around, because soil health is like literally everything.
You might spend more time fixing that.
Oh, if you noticed the camera move just now, that was my dog stretching underneath. She's laid out on the floor underneath the tripod.
Right. Do you have any good no-mow lawn options?
Do I? It's all I talk about. Well, if you're here and you're asking, where are you from? Where do you live?
Well, we'll get back to that question in a second.
Because I have so many options, but I feel like I've said them all 100 times, so I'd like to give them specific answers for that.
Mindra Rose just said that this is now our date night movie.
Hell yeah!
Fantastic.
Can you feel the love tonight? You're welcome.
Music part. Okay, back from Rebel Greens. I'm trying to kill my grass and grow a garden. I make my own compost, but not enough. So more comment than question there. Okay.
I love that you're making your own compost, though. Yeah. We can get into that.
All right. I've been looking into I've been looking into permaculture, sustainability, and soil regen. Do you have any program ideas?
I got my certification from Oregon State University. It was so hard. It was so legit. If you want to have your ass kicked for 4 months, am I allowed to say ass? I already did.
Yeah,
whoops.
you're good.
I said it twice. If you want to suffer for 4 months and then come out on the other side knowing a lot about permaculture, I strongly recommend the Oregon State University PDC Pro program, from which I am a graduate. It was hard though. It was not that fun.
But you learned a ton.
I did. Oh, I learned so much. But it's like, do you want to work every weekend from the minute you get off work on Friday till the minute you go to work the next Monday for 4 straight months, because that's what you'll be doing.
Well, a person has a cubic yard of ground pine stumps, pine needles, old com till, and soil. Is that good for bottom fill for raised beds?
Yes and no. It depends how much. I would not do more than like 25% bottom fill, because that is one that's very acidic with the pine, and it depends where you live. In Utah, you could literally add as much pine as you want, because our pH is like almost at 9 sometimes. And pine's like at 5, I think, and tomatoes like to grow at like 6. So you see where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of the pH, the carbon content of just stumps and wood and logs, it's too much, because the bacteria that break down whole pieces of wood need to use up nitrogen in order to break that down. And so if you put whole logs or stumps or things that are not just like wood chips like this is really the max size we're talking for the wood chips you want to put in a bed. Because if you take if you put a log in a raised bed, it is going to take 10 years to break down. And that entire time, the saprophytic fungi and the beneficial like microbes that are breaking that down, the bacteria, are using up all of your nitrogen, and you're going to have huge nitrogen deficiencies, which is going to make it really difficult to actually grow vegetables. So please, I only do like 25% pure carbon, the rest compost, raised bed soil, coco coir, just anything that is not just wood chips. And I've said this in the last live, I've said this on videos. It is trendy for influencers to fill up raised beds with logs and sticks and stumps and things, because it supposedly will save you money. However, these were not done with the actual science of like what soil breakdown consists of. This was done to like get clicks and likes, unfortunately. So please just be very careful, because I don't want you to be waiting for 10 years to have a truly successful garden.
And this person that asked that question, they have a clay soil and 6.5 pH.
So you already have that's a nice, really balanced pH. We like that pH for growing a garden. So you don't want to have just a ton of really acidic stuff and like throw that to be more acidic. It's not terrible. Like if you had a pH of, 5.5, I'd be like, let's focus on stuff that's basic. But again, I think just sticking to that, like max 25% carbon material, and then the rest, it's nitrogen, or it's compost, or it's raised bed soil, or it's coco coir, or it's something that is not that.
Okay, Lisa Marie on YouTube. They're in Zone 6, Northeast Ohio. Good options for a no-mow lawn.
All the options. Okay, I have said the word fescue so many times, I'm starting to get sick of it. But Twin City Seeds is the Midwestern source for native and eco-friendly lawns. Give them a shout. They are rad. And yes, there are low grow and no-mow lawns that involve like a combination of native and non-native fescue, sometimes clover, sometimes other things. But since you're in the Midwest, I would just recommend the actual company. It's called Twin City Seeds. They're based out of Minnesota, I think, but they have a range for like the entire Midwest. Oh, I kicked the tripod that was being, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. If anybody could actually see this setup in here, you realize how close to Jenga we really are right now.
Chaotic.
All right, this is a fun one. Do you feel enough attention gets put on the pollution of importing things like peat, coir, etc.?
I hate peat. I don't know enough about coco coir. I've always viewed coco coir as being like a pretty decent alternative to peat. Peat moss, for anybody watching who's not aware, these are harvested from peat bogs, and the act of harvesting it releases an insane amount of carbon into the atmosphere. It's an incredibly unsustainable product. And unfortunately, because peat moss allows for this like light, airy soil, it is an incredibly popular ingredient in raised bed mixes. There are companies here in Salt Lake that are selling bulk compost and bulk raised bed soil that contain large amounts of peat moss. And I have to very consciously not patronize those businesses because of how absolutely terrible it is for the environment. So please stop using peat moss. Do not buy peat moss at Home Depot or Lowe's. Do not buy raised bed mixes or patronize businesses who sell bulk mixes with peat moss in it. And also, ask them, like give them a call and tell them to use a sustainable alternative, because peat moss sucks and we need to stop giving money to that industry.
Okay. Interesting question. How do you plant grapes?
How do I plant grapes?
It really just depends on the zone, right?
It just depends on the zone.
Yeah.
I'm also not great at grapes because I have a dog, so I haven't learned a lot about planting grapes, because grapes are toxic to dogs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
We're live. I can't fake it.
Yeah, there's areas like the Willamette Valley Basin in Oregon where there's so much volcanic substrate that grapes just love it there. But really, I think it depends on your zone, right?
I mean, there's grapes here in Utah that thrive. I have a friend in Mill Creek who has an amazing pergola with grapes up it. You just want to make sure that you have a nice, like, winter hardy variety, depending on the zone that you're in. But I don't know enough about like what kind of soil grapes like specifically. It's just not something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about.
Right. Okay, so there's supposedly a sustainable peat being made in Canada, but the person commenting said they probably need to learn more details about that.
And I would also be very interested to learn more details. I don't know anything about that, but that sounds cool as hell.
Yeah.
And like, what makes it sustainable? What are they doing? Why? You know, if it's actually peat and they're harvesting it from a peat bog, what is different?
Yeah, what are they doing to offset?
Someone tell me. Oh my gosh, that's gonna keep me up at night. Thanks, man. Thanks for nothing.
Believe it or not, we're out of questions, but we're also an hour and 20 minutes into this.
Hell yeah, man.
So,
that was really fun.
That was.
Hey, does anybody, we're gonna give it like 5 minutes of us shooting the shit, maybe less. That 5 minutes is actually a lot. And I said another curse word.
The question was, what are you drinking? So you should probably plug your sake again.
Oh, thank you so much. So this is my friend. So this is not sponsored, but it's just my friend. So,
no, because our official sponsor is Yardcore.
Oh gosh. So Lee's making a joke because we removed a bunch of sod today for a friend/client, and we made a joke that we should charge people $180 a month to do a fitness program called Yardcore, which is really funny. This is my friend's sake. Her name is Jill. She is a queer Asian American woman living in Salt Lake City, Utah, and she makes this. And I think that's cool as hell. So if you live in Utah, you can get this at Utah liquor stores. It is called Suki Sake. This is the peach one, and it is so good. I almost cursed, but
enough of that sake, and you won't care about the.
It's a 10 out of 10 for me. This stuff.
Ooh. Okay, we actually have a few more questions come in. Joe, Thriving in Chaos down in St. George, is looking to make the area they're living in more usable for little kids. That's all just desert down there, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. So you're in St. George, you want a yard that's kid friendly. So what I would do is take a very small, just the max size that is functional for your kids, right? So we don't want to do the entire yard, but say, what is the minimum square footage that these kids need for it to be functional? And there are a couple of really desert friendly ground covers. I think the most foot traffic tolerant one is called Dwarf Carpet of Stars. So look into this ground cover. It's called Dwarf Carpet of Stars. It's actually in the succulent family, but it holds up to foot traffic significantly better than other succulents. You could do a small area, like I would do just large enough for your kids to just do the base activities. We don't want to do a lot. Then the rest, I would do pathways that your kids could like wander and play and like explore, something that feels a lot more like sensory garden, not so much just like lawn, right? Do pathways and then do drought tolerant plants elsewhere. In southern Utah, there are so many amazing drought tolerant plants, yarrow, Mojave aster, what's the other one? Asclepias tuberosa, which is butterfly milkweed, is native to southern Utah. There's so many. Sedums are not technically native, but they're native like nearby, and borders are kind of fake. So like we could say like some good sedums would be good. Yeah.
All right. Follow-up question from earlier. What was the name of the program you took at OSU, and do you remember vaguely the cost?
Yes, I mean, why not? We can be transparent about those things. So it was Oregon State University Permaculture Design Certificate, and I did the Pro because you can do the PDC, which is just for your own personal benefit, which I believe is like 2.5 months long, or you can do the additional 6 weeks of training, which is the pro version, and that gives you the certification to be able to offer these services professionally. So OSU PDC Pro was the program that I did. It was $1,200, which was an investment. I was very privileged in being able to invest in my education in that way. I have had more than a dozen people tell me that they are in the program now because of my talking about it, which is wild. I'm starting to think OSU needs to come through a little bit. But it was great. It was hard. It was a ton of work, but I learned so much, so much.
Okay, this is a good question. How does somebody hire you for planting a landscape?
How does someone hire? I'm so glad you asked. So I have a website. It is the same as my username. It is yardfarmer.co. You can go there. You can check out me and all of the things that I'm about. And then I have a page on there that says book a consultation or request a consultation. You fill out your information. You get this sweet little like virtual booklet that shows you everything about like what I'm about and how those consultations work. And then you're able to book it, schedule it. There's a calendar. It's very slick, I promise. You do all of that online. We get a calendar invite together. We hop on a video call. We talk about your project. That consult can stand on its own as a service. Like that can just be us brainstorming your yard for an hour. And then I put together this cute little document for you that's like, these are the plants I think you should plant. These are the soil amendments I think you should use. Just like that. That can totally stand on its own. Or if we think that you would benefit from a full service design with like architectural plans, step-by-step instructions, all of that, that is the first step in that. And I would then send you a proposal for a full design, and I would discount the cost of the consultation, therefore making the consultation complimentary after the fact. It's all very cool, I promise.
We're going to go over to our YouTube question here. Zone A, 7A in Georgia, primarily clay soil. What recommendations would you have for tips for smothering invasive plants such as English ivy and Japanese honeysuckle? Would sheet mulching and mulch and cover be enough?
Oh my gosh, probably not. And I hate to give you that answer because I wish it was. English ivy is it's the bane of my existence. I saw some literally walking into my house today. I noticed there was English ivy in my front yard and I've never seen it before.
What?
And I almost had a meltdown, but it was raining, so I decided I'm going to deal with it tomorrow. English ivy, it shouldn't be here. It's so invasive. I don't actually know much about the habits of Japanese honeysuckle, but it sounds like we can group those categories together. There's only so much you can do. And it starts with manually ripping out as much as you can. And you really owe it to yourself to manually rip out truly as much as you can and just spend weekends and weekends ripping it out. And then once you've ripped out all of that, and like, don't just sheet mulch directly on top of that ivy. That ivy's back in 10 and a half minutes. It's just there. Rip out as much as you can and then sheet mulch and then sheet mulch again and then rip out as much as you can. And honestly, so often I really try to work with invasive species and we say, okay, this species, we don't want it here, but it's here. Can we wood chip it once a year and use it as our mulch? That's like one of my primary solutions for invasive species is like, let's just keep using this biomass as free soil builders, right? But English ivy is it shouldn't exist. And you want to know what the most annoying thing is that I live in a 1930s Tudor cottage. Do you know how badly I would love some ivy to be growing up this brick around my round door? And yet it's an invasive species and I cannot in good conscience allow it to proliferate. And so I must rip it out. And that sucks because that English Tudor revival cottage really could use some ivy, Yeah. I'm mad about it.
All right, fun question. Have you ever had a job that went bad? And how did you handle it?
Who asked this question?
Johnny, who's not that other Johnny.
Johnny, who's not that other Johnny. Did we confirm it's not John?
He said he promises he's not that.
That's Johnny. Awesome. Because it's like, did you ever use biochar? By the way, I'm John from Go Biochar, and you owe me an email. You better email me back.
He promises he's not that John.
Yes. Funny that you should ask. Turns out I am super neurodivergent. I don't know if that was obvious based on this entire hour and a half conversation. And so prior to being diagnosed with ADHD and autism, I did not understand why brain no do things. And so that sometimes became very difficult, and I would suffer extreme periods of burnout, particularly in unsupportive work environments where the work was like, brain should do things, and brain was like, brain not want to do things. And then that, those were the issues. After receiving my autism diagnosis at my previous job, which was in corporate hospitality marketing, and actually like basically having this weird coming out to my boss being like, hey, guess what? I'm autistic and I need accommodations. And then realizing that those accommodations were never going to happen, I just hard quit my job and started this business. So all good things happen for a reason.
But we haven't had a bad design job yet, have we?
No. Oh, is that what he was asking?
I think that's what it might have been.
I was just like, yes, I was bad at working in a corporate office.
Bad at working for other people.
Because I have autism. No, I've never had a design project go bad yet. I'm very lucky. No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And hopefully never.
We've done dozens of projects so far. They've been fabulous. Sorry, I answered that question wrong.
Oh no. Another question on YouTube. Knowing nothing about their lawn, which is also in Utah, what is it most likely deficient in? If they've done nothing with it.
Oh no, that's awesome. That's an awesome question. You probably have an excess of phosphorus, and you probably have an excess of salts, and you probably have a deficiency in nitrogen and potassium. And I know that because whatever the heck conventional lawn fertilizer is, like whatever people who do lawns, they put this terrible inorganic fertilizer on lawns that is high in insoluble salts and high in phosphorus and low in everything else, and it sucks. So that's probably what you have. But honestly, this is what I would do, my friend. Who asked this question? Was it Diana?
Diana Jennings.
Diana.
In Farmington.
Diana, what you need to do is you need to go to usu.edu, and you need to search soil test. There's going to be lots of information that comes up, and there's information on how to collect the soil test. There's information on the form that you need to fill out. I'm going to walk you through I'm going to walk you through it. Okay. So follow the instructions on how to take the soil test. Basically I'm going to put my sake down. You basically dig a hole with a trowel, and then you take your trowel and you go like this, and you get the slice. You need the slice because we need the profile of all the soil on this side. Okay. So you take the slice, you put that in a bag, and you send it to USU, and they have all the information on how to do that. And then they're going to tell you what your nutrient deficiencies are. And then we can put some organic fertilizer in your soil to get that really nice. And if you need help, you can just book a consult with me and I'll walk you through it, like all the steps, all of it.
All right. We're going to probably wrap this up. We've been going about 90 minutes now. We'll probably wrap it up soon, but
yeah,
we'll get a few more questions.
Well, yeah, if there aren't any more questions, you can just shoot.
There's so many more questions.
Heck yeah. TikTok is great.
Yeah. What about using wood ash with cardboard compost mulch before seeding and would coring be necessary at that point?
So wood ash is an interesting one. I have been fascinated with using hardwood ash specifically for soils that are deficient in potassium because there's a significant amount of potassium in them, which I find fascinating. I don't necessarily see a problem in it. It's like similar to using wood chips. So again, just make sure that you're not using too much and therefore tying up the nitrogen in your soil. It really just depends on your specific situation. So you're going to want to get a soil test and really just kind of directly apply whatever you do to your specific soil. So it's really hard to give blanket advice because all soil is different. I had the most wild soil test come back for a client last week where it was like high in phosphorus and low in literally everything else. You just have to, it's actually more common than you'd think, but it was still just so high, like very high in phosphorus and literally like critically low in every other nutrient. You will never know until you send in a soil test. You just won't.
Virginia Trees had a comment that there's a company called Pit Moss that makes garden soil, and instead of peat, it has recycled paper in it.
That's rad.
That's pretty cool.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. It's like I use compost. You guys want to see something stupid? This is my paper shredder. It's from Amazon. It's $30. And I use this to shred my junk mail, and I use it as the carbon content in my compost.
That's perfect.
So if you ever are worried, if you're ever like, why does my compost smell? and you don't know why. It's because you don't have enough carbon in your compost. You put too much like coffee grounds and banana peels in your compost, and there's too much nitrogen, and that's why there's too much bugs in your compost. So you need to put carbon in there. So I always just shred my junk mail in this, and then I dump this in my compost bin like once a week, and it's fabulous.
Awesome.
Ta-da!
Person wants to know if they need to mow yarrow if they're using it like a lawn.
Yes.
They have some, but it's pretty tall right now, so it's not a good lawn if it's tall.
It's not a good lawn if it's tall, but if you mow it once a month, it will stay tender, and you can keep. And it's not fabulous lawn. It's fabulous, but it's a once a month mow. You would probably want to get a weed whacker or something to get, because it gets quite woody once it gets to like that 12 to 18 inches tall. So you would probably want to get a weed whacker or something, get it all cut to the ground, and then you could run a lawnmower over it, mow it every 3 to 4 weeks. It'll be fabulous. I love yarrow as a lawn, especially in Utah, in the Western United States, because it's native to here and it's hardy. It tolerates poor soil, clay soil, nutrient deficient soil, compacted soil, drought.
And
gorgeous.
Pollinators love it.
And well, not when it's a lawn because it doesn't flower.
Oh yeah, I wasn't thinking.
But when it flowers, pollinators love it. So have some yarrow on the side that you let flower, and then use it as a lawn because it's so good.
It's good.
I said this in the last live, but Murray Park started having yarrow and clover in their grass, and I don't know if they did that intentionally to combat the drought or if the gardeners just stopped washing their lawnmowers and they unintentionally brought in biodiversity. But fabulous.
And a question on how to get rid of fillery and goat heads without spraying it. It's over a half-acre area.
It's a lot. I'm sorry about that. You just have to sheet mulch it slowly but surely. So as you can, for half acre, I would do it in sections. Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. I'm very enthusiastic. I do it in sections. So just literally put a timer on for how much you know that you can emotionally handle. Don't try to do more than that. Set your 2-hour timer and just go out and do it. And I would, instead of trying to save enough cardboard for a whole half acre, because that feels like it would drive me insane. I think it would drive you insane. Go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, buy contractor paper. It comes in rolls, okay? And you can literally, you put a brick down on the end, or you grab a landscaping staple, which you can get them in the garden center, and you just stab that in the end. And then you literally just walk backwards. You just walk backwards and just pull it out, right? Just set a 2-hour timer on a Saturday, sheet mulch for 2 hours. Get those goat heads covered in the contractor paper, do a layer of compost, layer of wood chips. You can plant directly into that. If you're going to overseed something new, just switch those things, do the wood chips and then the compost. Either way. But don't try to do it all at once. Half acre is a lot.
That's why a lot of people give up on yard work, because they take on too much.
Yeah, and I found, so one of my biggest hacks for being a gardener and yard person who is neurodivergent is I just set timers, and I don't try to do it task-based. I'm never going to be today I'm going to tackle all of the weeds in this area. I say, today I'm going to do something for 30 minutes, and I set a 30-minute timer, and then I go in the yard and I do that. I do something useful for 30 minutes. And then the timer goes off, and then I look at my phone for an hour and a half. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. As the producer of this program, I'm going to state that we're going to take one more question, even though there's more questions in the queue. We're going to take one more question because this person worked outside for pretty much a year and a half today.
Yeah.
And
did a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But this was fun.
But we're going to do this again next week, right?
Every Friday.
That we can.
Because
there'll be some Fridays where we can.
That's true. I am going to Europe this May. But yes.
So we're going to take one last question. So make sure to tune in next week. We'll actually have on all the socials, we'll have posts on when, so that you'll know when to catch us live.
Yes.
Okay, I love this question. Can I be chaotic and just drop native clover seeds all over my lawn?
Hell yeah, you can. I would strongly recommend you aerate or core. So rent an aerator or pay someone to aerate, whatever, just to allow those seeds to get in there. And then something else you can do is mow your lawn really, really short. Take a hard rake and kind of rake that really, really short lawn so you have more spaces for seed to soil contact. And if it's a native clover, that's even better, because most of the trifolium repens or the micro clover, which is trifolium repens ex pirouette, which is very silly. Those are not native to the United States, but there are native clovers. So if you truly have a native clover, gorgeous, beautiful, I'm obsessed, I love you, please do that.
Okay. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Daryl will be back next week.
Look, I drank half a bottle of sake.
Yeah, that's the other reason why I felt like we needed
Look at
this.
that. This was full.
Wow. Good work there. That's amazing. So we'll be back next Friday. Make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're going to be posting tons of tutorials on that.
If you're watching this and you are not subscribed to us on YouTube, what are you even doing?
Oh, they're watching on TikTok.
Well, I understand that. If you are on TikTok and you're watching this and you're not subscribed to our YouTube, what are you even doing? Do you understand? I drank half a bottle of sake and I talked about grass for 90 minutes. You better be subscribed to us on YouTube. Obviously, that's the least you can do. That's the least you can do.
Say goodbye.
Okay. After I'm done shaming you for not subscribing to us on YouTube, thank you. You're beautiful. I had a great time. Goodbye. Bye, everybody. I don't know how you end it. I don't know how you end a live.
I just ended it. Okay. I hit the little thing that looked like a power button.
Are we on YouTube still?
We're
Hey,
still on
YouTube. You're gorgeous. You're beautiful. Thanks for subscribing. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm assuming you're subscribed, so you're awesome, and I love you.
And obviously, you know what you're doing.
It's Friday night. I'm a little tipsy, and I'm talking about grass, and I'm happy you're here. Goodbye.